This is not Misti, and this is not Kristi. You're listening to Misti and Kristi.
Well, this is Misty.
And this is Kristi.
And we're so thankful that the baby was able to give us that fabulous introduction today.
He just happened to be sitting here while we were getting ready to record.
Sucking on a Tootsie Roll Pop. So in between every lick, he was able to give us
a little Misty and a little Kristi.
That's it.
What are we talking about today? Well, something interesting. Relationships and when it's time to exit stage left.
Never, ever, ever outstay your welcome.
Now, what kind of relationships are we talking about?
Every kind of relationship. Friendships, intimate partnerships, marriage relationships.
Even sometimes with family relationships.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. We love that word, don't we?
Absolutely.
We say that a lot. Somebody made a comment to me about that. We say absolutely a lot. Anyway, so here's one thing that's I kind of have a beef with lately, and it's I hear this word thrown around a lot, and it bothers me. The word crazy. And it's, I think it's thrown around so nonchalantly because it's kind of a generic term. When you hear somebody say, oh, that's my ex-girlfriend and she's crazy. Or that's my ex-boyfriend, oh my God, he's crazy. Well, what defines crazy?
But even before we move on from that, I think for me, the minute that someone says, oh my God, that's my ex, he, she, they're crazy, I immediately start thinking, well, what grounds are you using to term that other person in that way? Because it always takes two to have a relationship.
So typically, yes.
Yeah. So if one of the people who I'm at that point communicating with is saying that the ex was crazy, on what grounds? Because possibly they reacted to something that you did or didn't do,
right,
in a way that was shocking to you. But reality is possibly you made a mistake in the relationship.
Let's be real. I've been called crazy.
I mean, who hasn't? I mean, if you want to be real, who has not been been called crazy? But I just think that, and as we navigate what we term the single world, it's important for us to remember that oftentimes when people refer to others or exes especially as crazy, that's also a bit of self-recognition of yourself. Because if you were in a relationship with someone you're now calling crazy,
right,
what does that say about you?
Exactly.
Either you too were unhealthy or you did something that resulted in negative actions.
And I heard a man say once, referring to multiple ex-girlfriends, multiple meaning like more than 2 or 3,
right,
that they were all crazy. And finally, this is in my younger 20 days, finally my thought process was, well, what's the common denominator?
Right.
In all these relationships? Oh, wait, that's you.
Then common factor is you.
Right. And as I learned, he's that guy that actually won't break up with you. He'll just stop calling and responding.
But when history repeats itself continually in your relationship, at some point you have to assume individual responsibility. So if you're saying, oh my gosh, this relationship ended because, and then 6 months later, this relationship ended because, and now guess what? 12 months later, a new relationship has ended because, and now guess what? We're a year and a half later, and another relationship has, well, first of all, we have a serial relationship problem. We don't know how to be by ourselves. And then number 2, there's only one common factor.
That's
and the common factor being you. And I think the hardest thing, and we were talking about this earlier, is to recognize when, and take a self-inventory and evaluate yourself, confront yourself, and be willing to say, you know what? I got some flaws here. There are some things in my life I need to get in order.
Correct.
Because if history continues to repeat itself in every relationship, be it friendship, intimate partnership, whatever family relationship, there's one common denominator, and that's you.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's hard to evolve and change as a person. But if it makes for a more peaceful life.
But then how? Okay, then I think some people out there don't have the emotional intelligence to recognize that they're the common denominator.
That's fine. Let's just say they don't. But one thing I think most of us can recognize is when we are in a continuum or a cycle that's constantly negative. If I have an interaction with person A that ends poorly,
right,
and then I have an interaction with person B, And that relationship as well ends poorly. And then there's a relationship with person C, and that relationship ends poorly. At this point, there are there's one factor in 3 relationships. It's this person right here. And I think it's fair to say, I mean, I'll talk about myself. There are things about me I'm having to work on in my 30s that in my 20s I didn't even know mattered.
Oh, wait. That manual that told me how to do life and have all the answers at 25
I didn't read it.
Working at 35?
Yeah, I didn't read it.
Oh, I read it. I knew everything at 25.
Well, you were already a step ahead of me. I didn't read it.
Oh, it was wrong.
Was it? That's the thing. I just think that we come to a point that when you really, there comes a point in all of our lives where we come face to face with the man in the mirror. And if what is currently around you, your surroundings, your environment, your relationships, if the things that you can constantly the man in the mirror is saying, you know what? There's some things here I need to work on first before I venture out there. And it's not fair for me to project my deficiencies on others. It's not always that the other party is wrong. And if every relationship you feel like you're the victim and you're constantly the one being dumped on or the one being treated poorly, and it's always you. But again, if you're saying this of multiple people, meaning more than 2, so 3, 4, 5, 10, who knows? There's only one common variable. That is you.
And that could be several factors. You have things that happened in childhood that you haven't dealt with. Happens to every one of us.
Yes.
Also, I think a lot of people project that their happiness on other ones. So like I need you in my life, Misty, to make my life complete and make
That's way too much pressure for me.
Oh, Lord.
At this point in my life, I cannot complete. It's too much pressure for me. I have to fully function with, here's Misty. Here's where Misty is today at this point in my life. These are my situations and set of circumstances. Anyone who's in my life outside of family, and even some family, that's a choice. Yes. Even truly to have a good relationship, even with your family as an adult child, you choose to have a relationship with your parents.
Absolutely.
And as well you should. I would not want to be involved with any person
who didn't want to be involved with me.
Yeah, and there's times you're going to have family conflict. Every family has conflict. There's times you're going to be mad at your sister or your cousin or your uncle or even your mom, God forbid. There are times that happens as adult children. But the reality is that root is your deepest desire to still somehow bring resolution to those relationships. So all I'm saying is, as we evolve and we're adults, relationships are a choice.
100%.
And if you cannot be 100% whole and healthy without a relationship or without an encounter, well, all you're doing is you're breeding chaos into other people's lives.
Yes, but I think the people who do that don't understand that they're doing that. I think they're looking for those people to make them happier. If I could find that one man in my life, that my whole life would be made and my shit would smell like rose petals and there'd be unicorns and rainbows and puppy dogs and butterflies everywhere. Well, in the case of reality, that's not real.
It's a utopia.
It's a utopia.
You have this projected idea of a futuristic ideas of positivity. The reality is, look at your current state. Take inventory of every relationship you have.
Yes.
When I'm talking relationship, I'm not talking about your encounter with the person at 7-Eleven. I'm talking about the relationships that impact your life.
And not relationships that you went on. I don't call going on a date 3 or 4 times with one personal relationship.
Not at all.
People that are a long-term relationship.
And intimate partners, people who you're intimate with, who you've chosen as adults to be intimate with.
A boyfriend or a girlfriend, a long-term friend.
Family.
Family.
Children if you have children.
Yeah.
Grandchildren if you have grandchildren. Siblings. These are people who you need to ensure your relationships flourish. If you still choose to have those relationships. Hopefully you do. But the reality is you cannot look at these other people, which are branches from your tree, that if one branch falls off, one branch passes away. One branch moves away. One branch outgrows the tree, because sometimes that happens.
It does.
Things
It does.
change, seasons change. You have to be willing to still be a stable trunk with deep roots,
Yeah.
with or without your individual branches. But so they're building a picture basically.
Yes.
There you stand, and every branch you have is a blessing and makes your life more bountiful. Fine. But if one of those branches, for whatever reason, is cut from that tree, for whatever reason, be it death, be it move, be it transition, be it job change, whatever the situation, you still have to be full functioning.
Yeah.
And if you are not a full functioning trunk with roots without a branch, the branch isn't the problem. It's the trunk, and the trunk is you.
On the flip side of that, your relationships you have to nurture. You have to nurture them. Otherwise, they will fall off because they've been deprived.
So if the roots of a tree were not providing the rest of the tree with what it needed, we're bringing up nutrients from the ground, we're taking in the things that we need. If we're not providing, like you're saying,
First the leaves will fall off and then the branches will break.
There you
And
go.
the whole tree will die.
so you have to choose, what are you as a person? What are you? You're the tree trunk. What are you choosing to nurture yourself with? How are you taking care of self first?
Right.
Once you realize I am a healthy tree trunk, I am deeply rooted, I am stable, I am able to weather storms, because storms are going to happen.
Every
Life
day.
happens.
Life is messing up if you're just sitting there being still and quiet.
It happens.
Don't go out and create more mess.
And regardless of what happens, are you still deeply rooted? Because it's like we're saying, these circumstances are not going to kill you.
No.
You can sit there and cry about it for a minute. You can be distraught. That's fair. When we have major life changes, or we deal with loss, or we deal with separations, or we deal with any form of sadness, devastation, the loss of a job, it is okay to have a day and say, oh my God, this shit sucks. That's reality.
But it will not kill you.
But you're deeply rooted.
Unless you let it.
Unless you let it. Nurture yourself. Be deeply rooted. Place yourself into something and pour into yourself. Ensure you are nurturing self.
Because if you don't love yourself, respect yourself, sure as hell no one else is going to respect you.
That's right. You have to seek to constantly better yourself. And I think for me, as I mature, and it's so weird how some people just mature at 23, and some of us don't mature until we're 50. I mean, that's just the battle of life.
Let's be real, I know some almost 50-year-olds who need some work.
And it happens. And, and I'm in the middle grade there. It happens. But the reality is, you have to be able to look at yourself and say, there are things I need to work on.
Yes.
Because I don't like what's happening to this branch. I'm afraid of loss. I don't want to lose this person. They're important to me.
Right.
So if this person is saying, hey, what you're doing to me is hurting me. I don't like how you're treating me. I don't like what you're bringing into my space. I don't like the negativity. Right now, this trunk is having to really fight to stay stable and rooted because I got my own things going on right now. But I want this branch to still remain strong. Then that branch has to do some damn work.
Yeah.
You have to realize, in order to stay also connected to this tree, you have to be stable as well. You have to be willing to reciprocate.
Okay, so in a term, you're my branch,
Okay.
right?
All right.
I'm me.
That's right.
You're my branch.
Exactly.
Otherwise, we wouldn't be sitting here.
Correct.
So I'm the tree,
Uh-huh.
and you're a branch. You see me going down,
Right.
down, and you have multiple times said, this isn't working, I'm hurt, and there's a cycle. And the cycle keeps going, and one day you just cut the branch.
That happens.
It happens.
But then here's the thing. I want to stay connected to your trees because you're my friend. I value the relationship over any opinion. I value the relationship over any circumstance. So if one of us sees the other person struggling, and if it's within my means to offer assistance, offer guidance, offer some kind words, offer advice, it is the responsibility in that friendship to do so. However,
You can only do so much.
it also has to be received.
Yes.
If you see me as a branch connected to you doing some detrimental things,
Sure.
I'm self-sabotaging, and you see it, and you care about me as a branch that's connected to you.
I can only tell you so many times, pull your head out of your ass and get your shit together.
And now I'm responsible for what you've said to me. Right. And the reality is, if as an adult I've chosen to remain connected to you, then I've done so knowing your personality is to be a straight shooter. Right. So you're going to tell me, hey, Misty, I care enough about you to say what you're doing is not productive. It's not positive. It's going to be detrimental. I can choose to shun you. Sure. I can choose to be pissed off at you because what you said was crap. It wasn't fair. It was offensive.
And it could have been.
And it could have been. But if I have more than one person telling me the same thing, at some point,
take a poll.
I have to say, hey, mirror, what's going on with Misty?
Or you choose to ignore the mirror.
And if I do, I understand I'm going to be victim. And I understand I'm going to be severed.
You're going to be severed. And then I think a lot of people fall into that victim mentality cycle. Because nothing's ever seems to be their fault.
Right.
Even though people have told them, you're an ass, or nothing's being reciprocated, or it's all about you, or the verbiage goes on and on and on. But I see people getting in this victim mentality cycle where nothing is ever their fault because either at some point in your life, no one ever made them accountable. They've never had to be accountable. So when somebody holds them accountable, the shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
There you have it. So when if you're a branch, you see your root going down, at what point do you sever that? What point do you go buy a chainsaw and cut
Whenever
it off?
your mess starts bringing mess into my life, whenever your chaos starts impacting me, whenever your negativity stops robbing me of positivity, when every phone call is negative in nature, when you can offer no productive praise to my own endeavors, when you cannot speak a word of positivity into my life, when you cannot offer a compliment, when you cannot pick up a check sometimes, when you cannot be there for me in the same manner I've been there for you, when that becomes our continuum, I have to say, this is not a relationship that's rooted in reciprocity. Because what I feel I'm bringing to the table, if I am truly taking a self-inventory and I'm like, you know what? I've praised her this week. You know what? I've given her a compliment. I've given her some advice. I've been a listening ear because we're not always fair to always be the one venting.
Sure.
I've given a listening ear. I saw her going through some hurtful things and I said, hey, maybe you could look at it this way. I've given her some perspective. Maybe I picked up dinner the other night. Maybe I drove and we used my gas and not yours. I mean, when I'm taking that inventory, I'm looking at the whole relationship. Maybe I sent the text first. Maybe I made the first call. Maybe I said, hey, I haven't heard from you in a day or so. How are you? Just checking in. That's a relationship.
Right.
Like you're talking nurturing. When I can take that inventory and I can say, wait, I've done all those things. And you've yet to do any of those things. And all you're doing when you contact me is dousing me with your negative energy.
And not even, it doesn't have to even be negative, but not even just to simply ask, what's going on with you lately? How are you?
If you're not inquiring of my life, if you're not bringing anything to the table in the relationship, I don't want it because I don't need it. I can't, we go through changes.
Goodness.
And currently, you and I both, we're at a place of reinventing ourselves. We're at a place where the wheel is turning a different way. If you are not on the same road as we are right now, it's really hard for us to be able to give extra time to you. If I can't glean knowledge from you in some area, if you're not growing on the level that I feel like I'm growing, it's okay. You want to be who you are for the rest of your life, that's great. I don't want to be around those kind of people.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest about it. If I understand some people are in jobs they don't want to be in. I get it. But you're constantly looking, you're putting your resume out there, you have your eye on the prize, you're still moving forward. I get that. It's okay. You've come out of a bad divorce. You've got to do a whole restart kind of life. I get it. That's not baggage. That's life.
Yeah.
But when you are getting home at 5 o'clock, taking your ass to sleep because you don't want to go to the gym, you don't want to check on your kids, you don't want to mingle with your friends, you don't want to go check on your aging parents, so you sleep until 9 o'clock p.m., and then by 10 o'clock p.m., you want to call the rest of us, say, hey, how you doing? Hey, what's up? Hey, guess what happened to my crazy day? I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
You basically were a dead person for 5 hours today. You didn't do shit.
Yeah.
Would you want my life? You want to come sit here and do what I do? You want someone to come sit in your shoes? If you're not stressing out a little bit, I can't deal with you.
Yeah.
If your life is all roses and like, oh, woohoo, like I go clock into the same mundane task every day and I'm just okay with doing this for the next 15 years.
Or you complain about it constantly, but you do nothing to
Nothing
change
about it. I can't. I'm sorry. I don't care. I have a friend who commutes an hour and a half to work. And it's a struggle for her.
God,
because
I've done that.
Because
That
she
sucks.
has kids. She's a single mom. She has responsibilities. She wants to make football games. She wants to make
3 hours of your day.
parent-teacher conference. She wants to do all this. But one thing she's doing that others aren't, she's saying, this is where I'm at for certain situations.
Yeah.
But I see where I want to be. And I'm not going to stop trying to get to where I want to be based on where I currently am.
Right.
There's a difference with the person that's saying, I hate my job. I hate my commute.
I hate my life.
I don't have a man that I like. Everybody lies to me. Everybody's the same. I want all my friends' relationships to be sabotaged because mine are shit. Get over yourself. You're not that freaking important.
It's the people who are so unhappy, they're not happy unless people around them aren't happy.
That's right.
That misery, just breeds misery.
It's like it thrives.
It's a fungus. It's a fungus.
And I think and when we talk about being equally yoked, I know that's biblical in theory, but the reality is we can all be diverse. You come from a different background maybe than I do, or your degree plan is in something totally different than mine, or you've worked in a different industry than me, or you've had a nonprofit for 15 years and I'm just at a point of where things are starting to get moving. The reality is I can glean knowledge from all of those people.
Yeah.
If you haven't done anything
With your life.
in the past year or so, if you haven't even read a book, if you haven't watched a documentary, if you haven't been to a new establishment, not always going to the same place because you're uncomfortable in other environments, I can't do it anymore.
But not even that, but people who are like, yeah, I think I'm going to go back to school and I'm going to finish my degree. I didn't finish when I was 20.
Do it!
Then go do it.
Quit talking about it. And I have a comment on that. That happened to me. I was in my early 20s, busting out SMU undergrad, boom, 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 boom. And guess what? Life happens. And now I'm married. I am married with 2 children. And so I decided I'm going to take 4 years off till the baby girl is in pre-K. And in my mind, I always knew when she goes to pre-K, I'm reapplying to go back to SMU. Kristi, I didn't tell one person, not even my husband at the time, because if it fell through, I didn't want anybody to know. It's not an easy application process to get undergrad SMU. It's not simple. It's not simple. So, and I'm working full time. I'm married. I have 2 children. What's this going to look like?
Yeah.
Without anybody knowing.
Mm-hmm.
I reapply. Boom, I get accepted, and I make the phone calls going back to school. Because I knew that was an individual decision. It was an individual decision that I had to do. I didn't need to whine and cry about it to other people. I didn't need to share that dream with other people because I knew there'd be naysayers. Mm-hmm. There are people who say, well, you don't have time to do it. You're married with 2 kids. You got to work. You got bills to pay.
When I said I was going to get my master's.
Right.
One thing I heard from one individual in particular was, why?
I've heard that too. Hang on.
Because I can!
Here's the deal. I'm going to speak on that too. So I'm going to go back to school and I did it. Busted that degree out. Busted that out. A's all the way, baby. Because I was mentally ready.
Right.
It was a Misti decision. And the same thing. Going to DR, Dispute Resolution Conflict Management Program at SMU. Why did I make the decision? Because I wanted to.
Yeah.
It wasn't for anyone else but Misti. Misti was intrigued by the program opportunities. Misti enjoyed the people. Misti's going to do it with or without your support. And I remember having a conversation with a longtime friend. And he says to me, well, there comes a point where you can actually get overeducated. You spend so much money on that degree, what are you going to do with it? And I'm thinking to myself, your vice is drinking alcohol every day and smoking weed. That's your vice. That's great. That's what you do. I'm not judging what you do.
No.
If you choose to be at this bar every damn night, drinking as much as you want, and smoking a joint on the way home, it's not for me to judge. But it's not for you to judge either what my vice of being a healthy person, a functioning person in my mind is, which is to get my degree, my graduate degree. Why would you
Tell me it's not okay.
Project your disgusting beliefs on me, but you don't even have an undergraduate degree to stand on. Shut up.
And I think it's not even that. I think people who are in that cycle of, oh, poor me, see people who are like, who did say, I'm going to graduate school. And they go, well, why? Why would you do that? Well, because I can, for one. And two, because I want to.
I want to.
And three, because I didn't realize getting an education was a bad thing.
And here's the deal. I'm not asking you to write a paper for me.
No.
I'm not asking you to practicum for me. I'm not asking you to sit in class for me.
Although my last paper, you might have to write it because I'm over it.
I'm saying, I'm not asking anything. Yes, I had family who stepped to the plate and helped me commute the kids one way or the other. They helped me with dinner sometimes. That's life. And I also had an oldest son who was 16 who stepped up to the plate.
Right.
I will never forget what those people did in that time frame. Never. My problem becomes when I have people who call themselves friends, who saw me post-divorce and knew that wasn't a positive Misty. Those 6 to 9 months, I was in a post-divorce psychosis that was not healthy. Nobody got in my face and said, hey, I don't think you should be doing that. I don't think you should be going there. No, everybody kept their mouth shut then. But then, when I'm actually enrolled in a graduate program, now you want to chime in with your suggestions on my life? And I'm actually doing something healthy?
So we like the unhealthy Misty, not the healthy Misty.
Because it makes them feel good about themselves. There it is. Anytime what I'm doing, and it's reality. There are certain things in life that do supersede what other people are doing.
Yeah.
If you choose to be complacent and stagnant, that's not my fault. If you choose to better yourself, I'm proud of you. But don't bash the person who's trying to better themselves because you want to remain complacent. Your complacency has no bearing on my success, and my success has no bearing on your complacency. They do not intertwine,
Right.
but what they will do is sever the relationship.
So at what point when you're the branch, because I've come across this situation multiple times in my life, and I should have exited sooner.
Right.
And that sometimes I think I should have waited to exit, and sometimes that exit took a long time.
Right.
But I'm at fault to blame for that as well. So I guess what I think about, and I spend time thinking about, is exiting relationships. And at what point do you just say, I'm out?
I think everybody has their individual breaking
Right.
point. And whatever yours might be in a relationship, mine may differ.
Exactly.
For me, for Misty, whenever I believe that the reciprocity in a relationship is not there,
Right.
whenever it becomes inequitable.
And the authenticity has gone.
If you lie to me,
Yeah.
and the thing about it is, I'm a very forgiving person. People wouldn't think so, but I'm a very forgiving person.
I am too, and to a fault. I'm actually loyal to a fault. But then once you cross that line with me,
It's like I said earlier, I read somewhere where someone once said, it's hard for me to learn your story and still not love you. I can love you,
but from a distance.
From a distance, you can no longer be an everyday part of my life.
Right.
Because what you're bringing to me
It's chaos.
It's detrimental to my long-term goals. And at the end of the day, I don't see what your long-term goals are because it doesn't appear you have any. Because the reality is, I have to review the entire relationship. Mm-hmm. And if you've done nothing in the 4 to 6 to 20 years that we've been friends, but basically lived off of handouts or off of a man, or a man who's living off of a woman, that's vice versa, or a woman living on a woman, blah, 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 whatever. The reality is, if I don't see that we're equal even at all, and when I say equal, I mean in
We're not talking about financial.
not education, not financial. I'm talking about spirit.
Right.
Like forging forward. I'm talking about the ability to, right now I have some difficult things facing me. But the reality is, I see tomorrow. If whoever I'm in a relationship with doesn't, and I'm talking friendship or whatever, isn't able to be that same kind of mentality, the resilient mentality,
Right.
I don't need you. And if I don't need you, then why am I letting you rob my time?
That's when it's time to exit stage. Right.
You don't have a choice. You have to be willing to preserve yourself.
Yeah.
And when someone is so wrapped up in their chaotic cycle and they don't realize it's impacting your life, and the
It's
thing is,
exhausting.
they don't understand they've hurt you. I think that's even the bigger thing. When you say
XYZ has happened.
it's hard to watch a friend spiral out of control.
Because essentially you have no control over what they do.
None, especially when they're an adult. You have no control.
But when you said, this is happening, pull your head out of your butt, get your shit together, and the cycle is still there, and they're imposing their chaos onto your life, what are your options?
You can offer them tools and skills, but
Right.
you cannot make them apply them.
No. You can lead the horse to water, but you cannot make them
You
drink.
can't. And the thing about people who have empathy and who have compassion and who have big
Probably had
hearts,
too much of it at some point.
I think oftentimes that type person is taken advantage of. And a lot of times those people are wrapped up in a very strong human being.
Right.
So we think we can really handle everybody's stuff.
Yeah.
And I myself stayed in a relationship 11 years too long. 11 years too long because there was nothing
Yeah.
that happened that benefited me or propelled me into my future.
Right.
What propelled me into my future was me realizing I've outstayed my welcome. It's time for me to exit.
Yeah.
And the minute I exited, my life changed. There were some hard days.
Well, it's not going to be an easy breezy situation.
No, because you're having to learn a new life. And it's just like a person who's wrapped up in their chaotic cycle or their unhealthy cycle.
Do you think, because I think some people sometimes get addicted to that constant drama and constant chaos.
Right.
And I think people, maybe addiction's a strong word, but
They become comfortable in chaos.
It's all they understand. It's all they know.
And so when things are going smoothly,
But does it really ever go smoothly if you like all that stuff in your life?
I don't think they understand what it is to have a healthy existence. And I was in a very tumultuous relationship for 11 years. So getting out of it, I had to figure out who is Misty, because what I can say in retrospect,
Yeah.
6 to 9 months out of that relationship, I was still seeking chaotic situations because that's all I had known for over a decade of my life.
And you know how to manage
That's
that.
the only thing I knew. And then I'm looking back and I'm like, how did me and that person even become friends? Or why was I even in that environment? I mean, why was I among swine? I mean, I'm being serious.
Right.
I look back into some, I'm like, and it's not about money and education. It's about my character and who I am as a person. What happened?
I think maybe for you this is true, and maybe for others this is true. I think when there's calm, people go into people who are used to the chaos there actually is calm, and they're like, then they go start spinning and waiting for the shoe to drop.
Yeah.
So they don't know how to do calm. I prefer calm, quiet, and
Calm requires you look at yourself.
Well, we've done a lot of that this year.
But when you don't want to face yourself in the mirror because you're disappointed in yourself, for me, that's where I was. When I was doing that 6 to 9 months after exiting that relationship, I was disappointed at who I had become during that decade. I didn't like that person.
Right. That's understandable.
And so when things were calm or quiet or the kids weren't home and I was just there with me, Misty had to have a meeting with Misty.
Yeah.
And Misty didn't like what Misty saw, so what did Misty do? She fed for more chaos.
Yeah.
She wanted to feel that need. She had to get something off of her mind. She had to get herself off of her mind. But eventually, I was done.
Yeah.
At this point in my life, I'm not arguing with you. I'm not screaming with you.
No.
I'm not getting into a cursing match with you.
No.
There will be no elements of physical violence.
Right. Absolutely.
And I do my best, I do my very best to manage my relationships with that. I fail, but when I realize something is becoming unhealthy, I pull away.
Yeah.
Because now I realize that hurts.
And it's not fun, and nothing, and I think some people have a misconception of what a healthy relationship is. Like, love hurts. Love is supposed to hurt. No.
Love does not hurt.
No.
If you're in a relationship that is not building you,
Friendship,
building you,
friendship, husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, whatever.
building
Yeah.
you, if it is not propelling you into your destiny, if it is not bringing more life into you, if it's draining you, hang up the phone.
Yes.
Stop the text messages. Either exit quietly or let them know why you're leaving. But do not stay.
Yeah.
If you choose to stay, you are responsible for your discomfort.
Yeah. And I had to learn that lesson a very hard way.
And it doesn't mean you're a mean person. And that's the
No.
thing when you're saying, hey, I got to cut you off. It doesn't mean that you're hurt by it. Most of the times when we have to cut somebody off, we're not happy doing a go-lucky dance about it. There's some sadness there. Because there was time put into a relationship.
And I think in the past, because I'm like you and also a very forgiving person and
Right.
compassionate, I would say in the past, I'm done. It's over. We're done. And that could be a relationship or a friendship or whatever the scenario may be. But then, a month later, a few days later, a week later, clearly it wouldn't be done. And now I'm at a point where if I say I'm done, I'm done.
Because you're at a place where you're not being impulsive about it. It's
Correct.
a well thought out, rational decision where you have really evaluated the risk that it takes to stay in the relationship, and you recognize as a healthy, functioning adult,
Yes.
it is healthier for you. You have to preserve your state of mind. You have to maintain your peace in your space. Some relationships just have to be severed.
As I told my father recently, we are genetically linked to enough chaos in our family because of my DNA code. I don't want to invite any more of it into my life.
And when you allow it, you are inviting it.
Correct.
Because the minute you recognize it to be unhealthy, chaotic, dysfunctional, the minute you choose to stay, you have to take that responsibility.
It took me a long time to realize, in a couple of relationships actually, that because I had why does this keep happening with this particular person, and why does this keep happening, and why does this, and finally I realized I'm half responsible for this. I'm partially to blame for half of this relationship. I allowed this behavior to go on.
I heard someone say recently, a thief cannot take what is understood to be given. If
Yeah.
it's an understood exchange.
You teach people how to treat you.
And that's a coin phrase that people just throw out there.
But
it's a
it's
reality.
It took me I'm 35 and a half, even though I don't like that number, but I'm owning it. But I've realized that it took me right at 35 years, on April the 6th, 2014, I had a bright realization that I am partially to blame for this. And it's partially, I'm half at fault for why I was in that place I was in. And what had happened had happened.
Right.
And now, I don't allow it anymore. And my life is a lot less complicated.
And you're learning to like Kristi for what Kristi is, who Kristi is, the future that Kristi has, what you have at your fingertips,
Yep.
your skills, your ability, your mental capacity, that is always hindered when you are in a chaotic relationship.
Yes.
Especially with what we do. When you're a mediator,
I think a lot of our master's program brought to light a lot of things for me that I was in denial of toxicity and chaos and conflict.
but when you work in this profession and you are a mediator, it is very difficult to walk into mediation holding your own conflict.
Right.
Because the requirement for the mediator is to hold the conflict that you're mediating and the dispute you're resolving. So if you yourself walk in with your own conflicted issues circling about you, how then can you compassionately and with clearness of thought hold the disputes that the clients are bringing to you? You can't. So the reality is to be full functioning as a third party, or even, and I'm going to take this further, even when you're a single parent and you're having to deal with your kids. Mm-hmm. If you have all of these friends that are constantly bringing negativity into your life, you are quicker to snap at your children if you're in an intimate relationship, if you're allowing friends to douse you with their negativity,
Yeah.
the minute you hit that door, who do you take it out on?
The people you're closest to.
That's not fair.
It's not
fair to the parties when you're mediating.
It's not okay.
It's not fair to
fair.
your children. It's not fair to your intimate partners.
Right.
Deal with you. Understand, hey, every time I talk to you, I get in a bad mood. That's a simple reflection. Every time I hang this phone up, I don't know what the hell we just talked about, but I know I'm irritated.
Yeah.
Done.
So let's part with this. And you always are really good about your quotes, because you always have something profound to say every day, which I find amazing. So I always
It just happens.
It just happens. Oh, really?
It really does.
She's being very modest, y'all.
No, it really does. Conversations breed words for me. I don't know.
It does. We'll leave you with this, y'all. Hashtag exit stage right on Twitter at Misty and Kristi, on Facebook, mistyandkristi.show.
Never outstay your
You're
welcome.
welcome.
You are not a human seamstress. We can't fix them all,
Can't fix them. Your happiness is your responsibility.
as is your healthiness.
Take care.